Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news show where some breaking news has just come in from a credible source. Well, it's not come from Romano or Ornstein, it has come from Santi about Manchester United reaching an agreement with Bayern Munich over the Mazraoui deal. The fee, Manchester United have agreements in place for the Ligt and Mazraoui, and this is now just dependent on Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka's sales for those deals to be done, reportedly, and it's reported that Wan-Bissaka going is likely, and Manchester United believe that Lindelof will also be sold, with United focusing on Lindelof's sale. So lots of interesting updates coming in there. There is a report that Sancho has agreed personal terms to join PSG, but I'm not quite sure where that source has come from, so I need to do a bit more research on that. But there is some more exit advancements on Sancho. Sancho is expected to leave Manchester United. We've got some more news and stories coming out around Yoro and Hojlund, the injury. Apparently Hojlund should be back soon, but Yoro's injury could be quite serious. Some updates on Fofana, Milan's bid being rejected. Could United go back in for that? The latest on Branthwaite, the latest on Ugarte, the latest on Chiesa. Then we'll dive into some more Lindelof and Eriksen exit news, Manchester United's plans, and more. So make sure you hit that like button, and of course please do subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new and want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news and more. And I think with Yoro's injury, I think Manchester United stepping up for their Ligt could also be soon, although Bayern Munich have just lost a player out to a foot injury. So let's dive into the news. So Santi said that Manchester United have an agreement with Bayern Munich around at a 21 million deal for Mazraoui. Apparently, we've got the agreement there with Bayern Munich. Now, the thing is with players like Branthwaite and Ligt is that we have Ugarte, we have the agreement there with the player, but we don't have the agreement there with the club. Whereas with Mazraoui, we now have the agreement there with the player and with the club, but it's now dependent on Wan-Bissaka. This is what's been said. Manchester United's agreement with Bayern for Mazraoui is estimated around £21 million. I think it is £18 million, another source said. Manchester United have reached an agreement with Bayern for Mazraoui. West Ham have reached an agreement with United for Wan-Bissaka. All that's missing is the player agreement. Talks are still ongoing over the signings of Mazraoui and Ligt. The players are now waiting for Manchester United. All depends on Wan-Bissaka. So, what is being said is we've got an agreement with Bayern Munich and Mazraoui for that. If Wan-Bissaka gives West Ham the green light saying, "Hi West Ham, I want to join you," we get Mazraoui and we sell Wan-Bissaka. Apparently, we've got an agreement with West Ham to sell Wan-Bissaka. Fee has been agreed. We've got an agreement with Bayern to buy Mazraoui. He's already agreed terms with United. It is now us waiting for this Wan-Bissaka green light for him to agree to join West Ham, which he might not. He might do a Maguire. You never know. And then Mazraoui's a Manchester United player, essentially. It's a little bit confusing, but that is what's being suggested, and this is coming from a credible source. Guys, I do apologise if we're getting a little bit of lag coming in. I hope the stream quality is okay. Do let me know how it is going as well. West Ham agreed 15 million euros. How are we paying 21 million quid? I don't know what the actual fees are, but the way I see it is we should be getting Mazraoui for 18 million quid and selling Wan-Bissaka for 15 million quid. That's the way I see it. 18 million for Mazraoui, 15 million for Wan-Bissaka. I mean, there's lots of mixed reports. I think, considering it's Man United and West Ham, we're both British, it will be in pounds. So maybe it's 15 million pounds, but I still think we could get Mazraoui for under 20 million pounds. Maybe there's add-ons included as well. When people include how much money Man United spent on a player, they include the add-ons. When they include how much money other teams spent on the player, they seem to not include the add-ons as well. There is a report coming out that Jadon Sancho has agreed personal terms to join PSG, but again, I don't know the source of information. It's coming from Sports Zone online as well, so we will keep an eye on that story as well, so make sure you stay tuned. We'll see if we can get any advancements in that story as well, probably including add-ons with our valuation like the media usually does. Yeah, it's like if Man United sell a player, they won't include the add-ons, but if we buy a player, they'll include the add-ons. And you'll see, Liverpool only spent this much on this player and Man United spent this much on this player. And it's like, well, actually, you need to add 10 million to Liverpool's and then you would include the add-ons, or you can take the add-ons off United's deal. It's just the way the media works. So apparently there is a deal agreed with Mazraoui with Bayern Munich. That deal was agreed. So we've got two deals agreed, essentially. A double deal has been agreed with Mazraoui and Wan-Bissaka. All that's missing is Wan-Bissaka's agreement. Mazraoui wants United. Mazraoui is willing to join United. I think the fact that West Ham were really close to signing Mazraoui, then he said, "No, I want United," suggests that there's been contact between Manchester United, West Ham and Bayern, and almost this is like a triple deal. It's like a domino effect. We also are in talks with not just Mazraoui, but also in talks with Matthijs de Ligt, probably focusing on that deal, especially with Ligt and Yoro being out. We're going to touch upon that and the news on that second. But of course, thank you for the super sticker as well. When can Xerxes play? I think Xerxes will not join up on tour, but Xerxes will be ready for the Community Shield game as well. But Community Shield game as well as Maino and a couple key players. Hojlund hopefully won't be out long as well. Wouldn't surprise me if they injured Yoro on purpose. Well, it's a muscular injury. It wasn't a contact injury. It's just an annoying one today as well. Mappeteer said in his video today, Sancho may leave, but it looks very likely Casemiro is staying. And yeah, for me, I think Casemiro stays. I think Maguire stays. I think Sancho leaves. I think Wan-Bissaka leaves. I think Eriksen leaves. I think McTominay leaves. And I think Lindelof leaves. If I was going to talk about leaving, I think Anthony will stay. I think Maguire will stay. I think Casemiro will stay. But I do think McTominay's 50-50. I think Eriksen will go. I think Mazraoui will go. I think Lindelof will go. I think Wan-Bissaka will go. That would be my prediction. So let's talk about De Ligt. Let's dive into some recap on the De Ligt news. This is a little bit of an older story, and then we'll get into the newer news of De Ligt, because there's expected to be some big developments for De Ligt, especially with Yoro out. But of course, United is still focusing on the midfield and who they want to bring in attack. But it was said this on De Ligt. Agent Rafael Pimenta remains in direct talks with Manchester United about the transfers of De Ligt and Mazraoui. Both players are concrete transfer targets for Manchester United. De Ligt and Mazraoui are both keen to join. Talks and negotiations ongoing. Bayern needs sales. Matthijs de Ligt is waiting for Manchester United to complete some outgoings to accelerate his arrival. We've got talks with Mazraoui and de Ligt. We've got an agreement with both Mazraoui and we've got an agreement with de Ligt. We've also agreed a fee with Bayern for Mazraoui. We're now waiting on Wan-Bissaka for the green light. There's a double agreement in principle for de Ligt and Mazraoui, but as Romano said, Matthijs de Ligt is waiting on United to complete some outgoings before accelerating his arrival. Us getting Mazraoui depends on Wan-Bissaka being sold. Us getting de Ligt depends on Lindelof being sold. If we sell Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka, here we go for de Ligt and Mazraoui. We also know on de Ligt, as previous news has stated, the Bayern Munich is still very keen to do a deal to sell Matthijs de Ligt to United, but there's a big gap in valuations. Bayern need to sell so they can pursue a deal for Jonathan Tah. It was said before closing the de Ligt deal, Manchester United want to make sure a centre-back is leaving, possibly another position. And obviously, we just got to make sure Romano's saying we basically got to make sure Lindelof is leaving. And it was also said that Matthijs de Ligt remains high on the list after personal terms agreed, but United wants to include add-ons in talks with Bayern Munich as €50 million fees considered too high. Now, what we do know in regards to de Ligt to Manchester United is that obviously we want to do a deal for £38 million. Bayern Munich want to do a deal for around €50 million, which is £43 million. So there's about £5 million gap in valuation, plus they want add-ons as well. I think we'll pay £43 million, which is what they want, on top of add-ons, but we'll add the add-ons to make it 43. I think we'll pay 38 million, which is what we're willing to pay, with 5 million in add-ons to reach the €50 million price tag. But obviously they want add-ons on top of €50 million, but they want to sell. They're kind of desperate to sell. We've now got more reason to get de Ligt, with Yoro being injured, and Maguire, to be honest, didn't look that good yesterday either. I'm not totally convinced about him. I think for about £38 million, rising to 43 million with add-ons. I think we'll probably do the same for Ugarte, and I think we're just waiting on Lindelof to be sold. And then once Wan-Bissaka is sold, it looks like Mazraoui is going to be done. It looks like Mazraoui is going to be, in the door as well. Guys, please do hit that like button, and of course, subscribe down below if you're new. As we dive into all the stories as well. Someone said this is clickbait. I mean, it's literally on your screen here. Manchester United have an agreement with Bayern Munich. The thumbnail is we've got an agreement with Bayern Munich for Mazraoui, and we also have a double agreement with Mazraoui and Wan-Bissaka, and we also have an agreement on terms with de Ligt. So once we sell, we'll he goes, because we've got the agreement with the player and the club. We're waiting for the sale, and then when the sale happens, we'll get the here we go. So I mean, obviously this news might not be true, but this is what the news is saying, that there is an agreement there. So, so for someone saying clickbait, I do apologise for the lag, but this is what is being reported, that we have an agreement as well. Sancho to PSG triggers Rashford to PSG. I don't think Rashford's going anywhere, to be honest. I don't think Man United want to sell Rashford as well. I do apologise if there is a little bit of lag. I don't know why it's so laggy at the moment. There is reports coming out that Sancho has agreed terms with PSG, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on as well. It was said by Sports Zone that PSG have reached an agreement with Jadon Sancho. However, he's not the priority, and they do favour a few players over him. They obviously want Nico Williams, but Nico Williams wants Barcelona. But if they can't get Nico Williams, they may make a move for Jadon Sancho. Let me get into this story, and then I'll get into some updates, because we've got some updates on Ligt and Yoro, we've got some updates on Rasmus Hojlund, Eriksen, Lindelof, a number of things as well. As Alex said here, Bayern still want Tah and have Upamecano and Min-jae. They should let De Ligt go. Exactly. And interestingly, the Bayern Munich was it sporting director, whatever he's called, came out and said, well, who knows what happens with De Ligt, because he said, you know, Man United's manager's Dutch, De Ligt's Dutch. There's obviously a connection there. He said, who knows what happens with De Ligt. That's what the Bayern Munich sporting director himself said. And the Bayern Munich sporting director also said, you know, I'm not selling Upamecano, that's one thing for sure, but we are open to selling a centre back because they essentially want to bring in Tar. And he's saying, well, I'm not selling Upamecano. Kim Min-jae's only been there a year. You know, so it's De Ligt that's probably going to make way. I mean, it's basically been said by Sky and Romano and everyone that Bayern Munich are still keen to sell De Ligt to United. They kind of want to sell De Ligt to United because they want to press ahead with Jonathan Tar, and De Ligt's waiting for United. It is essentially, you know, if what the media is saying is true, we sell Wan-Bissaka to West Ham, Mazraoui, here we go. We sell Lindelof, De Ligt, here we go. And the next signing will probably even be a midfielder with Ugarte. That deal's still underway. That deal's still being progressed as well. Sell Sancho for 40 million euros, done and dusted. I'd like 40 million pounds for Sancho, but I think we're in a position where we probably would take around 34 million pounds, which is 50 million euros as well. So obviously, as you can see on the screen, I'm assuming you're looking at the screen, you can obviously see this report coming out that apparently Jadon Sancho has agreed personal terms to join PSG. So it was an interesting one to keep an eye on. I'm making my screen really small, my little screen here, because my Wi-Fi is just not on it today. It's completely glitched. But it has said by the Sports Zone that PSG have reached an agreement in principle with Sancho. However, he's not their priority and they favour other players. Manchester United wants 60 million euros for Sancho. So this is currently what's being said at the moment in regards to Sancho, that we want 60 million euros, which is about 50 million pounds. I know that's not the case. I know we want 40 million pounds for Sancho. So the fact that this report that's saying we've agreed that PSG have agreed personal terms for Sancho are getting the price wrong says to me it's probably not the most reliable. Like, one thing we know for sure is the price tag on Sancho is 40 million pounds. They're claiming the price tag on Sancho is 50 million pounds and they've agreed personal terms. Considering they're not even getting the price tag for Sancho right, I would assume that this report is probably fake news for clicks and stuff as well. I really do apologise about the lag coming in, guys. I don't know why it's so laggy, but if I'm going to be honest, I don't think this story is credible. I don't think there's much in this story, and yeah, I wouldn't deep this story too much as well. Let's dive into the news. Let's dive into the update. So if you've just joined, we've essentially got a double agreement. We've got an agreement with West Ham for Wan-Bissaka, and we've got an agreement with Bayern Munich for Mazraoui. That is the news coming in, but it all depends on if Wan-Bissaka is willing to join West Ham or not. There's obviously talks and movement ongoing with De Ligt. Man United are still working on the De Ligt deal, and while I think United deep down favour Branthwaite to De Ligt, I do think that De Ligt is the most likely, especially because Man United believe they can get him for £38 million as Bayern are looking to bring in some money, and that is obviously being negotiated, that is being worked on. But like Mazraoui depends on Wan-Bissaka being sold, De Ligt seems to depend on Lindelof being sold. As we dive into the next story, again, more talks going on, but it was said that United are not ruling out a move for Matthijs de Ligt even after signing Ligt and Yoro. Though a move for de Ligt will now hinge on whether they sell Lindelof, Maguire, or both this summer, which is basically what we know. The problem with Mazraoui is I really like Mazraoui, but he's injury prone. We're getting all these injuries at the back, and then we're signing another player in an injury prone Mazraoui, which is a little bit of a concern. But Mazraoui's actually spent less time out injured last season than Wan-Bissaka did, because Wan-Bissaka missed quite a lot of games through injury. So, you know, considering Wan-Bissaka's injury record last season, Mazraoui's is currently actually got a slightly better injury record than Wan-Bissaka as of this season. So hopefully our curse with injury stops. But that being said, we picked up 2 injuries to 2 of our most key and important players going into next season within 20 minutes of a pre-season game, and one of them could be a concern as well. Mazraoui seems mostly a lot of minor injuries, but is a concern. Yeah, like minor injuries better than major injuries, but it definitely is a concern. So what else has been said on Jadon Sancho? Because obviously we just got the report up earlier that Jadon Sancho has agreed personal terms to leave Manchester United and to go to PSG. He's agreed personal terms to PSG, so suggests he'd leave United. Now, these are reports that have come in today on Sancho as well. Jadon Sancho's departure is looking more likely, expecting Juventus and PSG make a move soon. It is expected that Juventus and PSG will make a move soon for Sancho. Juventus obviously basically sold Sule. The funds are there. We know that Sancho is open to Juventus. We know that he's open to PSG. We know that both players are interested in him, but I do think PSG's priority is Nico Williams. It was said that Barcelona could move for Sancho if they're unable to sign Nico Williams this summer, and it was also said that Manchester United will only look to strengthen the attack if Jadon Sancho and Facundo Pellistri is sold. Now, I think, again, I have a feeling that Sancho will go. I have a feeling that Sancho will leave Manchester United. He knows that Ahmad, Garnacho and Rashford are going to be above him in the pecking order. I don't think he's particularly keen on staying because one thing about Sancho is he wants to play, and that can cause controversy with Ten Hag. The other thing is as well with Mazraoui coming in to bring the best out of Antony as being reported, like it's a bit of a joke, that report, but Mazraoui coming in to maybe get the best out of Antony and all of those kind of reports and stuff as well. And the fact that Ineos can't sell Antony because it's basically impossible. So if they're going to make some money, it's going to come through selling Sancho. I think Sancho going, assuming that PSG or Juventus match the price tag for him, is a given. I think United will do a deal around £35 million for Sancho, to be honest. They'll probably ask for 40. I think we'll get just over 30 for him, 40 million euros maybe. But I think Sancho leaving Manchester United is a strong possibility. Who do you think the most important next two signings are? I think the most important next two signings we could make is Fofana and De Ligt. The DM and a centre back. It doesn't have to be Fofana and De Ligt, but for me, while I would like a new winger because I don't rate Antony. I think Ahmad is good. I think Garnacho is good. I think Rashford is good. At least we've got good options there. Mason Mount can always play there if need be. I just think for me, the most important thing that we can do next is absolutely get the second centre back in because Varane is gone, Yoro is injured. And then, of course, after that, yes, midfielder as well. Those, for me, are the most two important positions we can do. And then towards the end of the window, maybe getting another attacker in. What am I drinking? I'm just drinking water, but there's a load of ice in it because I've been a little bit, sleepy. And I don't know if I drink like cold, icy water. It just keeps me away as well. Hi, Alistair, just joined the live. Can you recap? We'll do a quick recap here. Mazraoui to Bayern Munich. Man United have an agreement with Bayern Munich for Mazraoui at £21 million. Man United also reached an agreement with West Ham today for Wan-Bissaka. So we've got agreement with Mazraoui and we've got an agreement with Wan-Bissaka in terms of the clubs. We've got an agreement with Bayern and we've got an agreement with West Ham for Mazraoui and Wan-Bissaka. Now, apparently, if Wan-Bissaka accepts West Ham's offer, which we've already accepted, apparently a £15 million bid from West Ham, and we've also agreed a £21 million deal with Bayern, Mazraoui will be a United player if Wan-Bissaka decides, you know what, I'm going to West Ham. We also know that De Ligt has been involved and De Ligt has been spoken, and we know that De Ligt is waiting for United to complete some sales and will accelerate his arrival. United want Matthias De Ligt. Once they sell Lindelof, there's an expectation that De Ligt will be a United player. There's obviously verbal agreements with De Ligt. There's a personal terms agreement with De Ligt. Sancho's exit is looking more likely. Apparently, he's agreed personal terms with PSG, but that's not come out from the most reliable source. And if Sancho and Pellistri are both sold, we may look for another attacker. Now, another exit that's definitely on the cards, another exit that is increasingly likely, is, of course, the exit of Christian Eriksen. Manchester United have set a low asking price of just £4.23 million for Eriksen, which is €5 million. United are working hard to get him off their books. Both Anderlecht and Ajax are interested. I think the low price tag for Eriksen is purely because he's on nearly 200k a week in wages. I think we'll literally save £10 million this year in wages alone if we let Eriksen go, which I think is why there's such a low asking price in regards for Christian Eriksen. But it obviously has been said and has been reported that €5 million and you can have Eriksen. Eriksen, in an interview when he was asked about his future at Manchester United, literally said, obviously I love being at Man United, but obviously I want minutes and I want to go where I play minutes. Whereas Maguire was like, I'm staying, don't believe what you read in the media, I'm 100% going to be it, I'm 100% staying. Essentially, that wasn't both of their exact words, but that's essentially what they were getting at. So the difference between, Maguire and Eriksen when they're asked about their futures in terms of responses, in terms of answers, says to me there's a strong possibility Eriksen will leave. Obviously, I think Ajax is his first choice, having sort of come from Ajax. Ajax were the club that took him in after the horrible incident that happened at Euro 2021. Yeah, so Eriksen could technically be pure profit because we did get him for free as well. Xavi Simons is believed to be Leipzig bound, yes. And Desiree Doué is believed to be Bayern Munich bound as well. How much would Wan-Bissaka be sold for? £15 million apparently, but one source says €50 million. So I don't know, there's a mix up there. Some sources saying £15 million, some sources saying €50 million. Who knows as well. We've wasted so much time on Ligt and Ugarte. I thought we were operating differently by getting people in fast. I can 100% get why you think that, but we have terms agreed with both Ligt and Ugarte. But the reason we haven't got Ugarte done is because if we want Ugarte now, we're going to have to pay £59 million. We're not paying £59 million for a player that PSG spent £51 million on as flops and they want to sell. Ugarte is, we're just waiting for them to lower the price. They've got João Neves essentially done. I believe they will lower the price. De Ligt is one that, again, we want to get him for the right price. Basically, because we've got Yoro, we're not focused on De Ligt, we're focused on midfield. It's all about outs. Yes, outs is being slow and it's being difficult to sell the likes of Lindelof and players we need to get out. But at the end of the day, Ineos didn't buy these players and give them these high wages, which is making them so difficult to sell. So, yeah, we can't sell Maguire because he's not going to leave United because he's on ridiculously high wages and no one's going to match that. So, that's not Ineos' fault. Obviously, we want to buy De Ligt and we want to buy Ugarte, but we can't press ahead on that until we've had a few sales. Maybe Ugarte we can because we've obviously sold Greenwood and there's a little bit of funds there and midfield is the next position, but it's about PSG lowering the price and Ineos don't want to overspend. So to be fair, like I can 100% get where you're coming from, but you've got to remember that it's very difficult for Ineos to sell. Ineos have got to undo 18 years of transfer chaos where we had a really bad negotiation position in the market where we have to overspend and how we have to undersell and how people just know that United are desperate and they could do this and that. You know, we're in a weak position there, and Ineos have got to undo 18 years of weak marketing position and weak negotiation tactics, which makes it incredibly difficult. So you've got to remember that this is a couple of years process of actually becoming a better club in the transfer window. And I think the fact that we've got Xerxes and Yoro both agreed and both in, I think shows progress for United. But I can understand why people think, oh, it's slow for Ugarte, it's slow for De Ligt, but it's just about injuries as well. Yoro's injury further highlights the need for another centre-back. We're still one injury away from last term's backups. Exactly. It's like pre-season was like, it's like Lenny Yoro is a perfect Man United centre-back, get injured. Honestly, it's a joke. So what has been said on Lenny Yoro's injury, because this is coming from Paul Hurst. Eric Ten Hag left the SoFi Stadium last night concerned that Lenny Yoro will be out for a considerable period because of the muscle injury that he suffered in the match. Rasmus Hojlund is a doubt for Manchester United's second pre-season tour match against Betis on Wednesday. Lenny Yoro's injury appears to be more serious than Hojlund. There is another source going about on Twitter saying that Lenny Yoro is expected to be out for 3 months, but that source isn't very reliable and I suggest that it's engagement bait. But there is a rumour going about that Lenny Yoro is set to be out for 3 months, but I think that is just engagement bait because I'm waiting to see what's said. But as of now, Manchester United obviously, thinking of doing a deal. So Manchester United not too worried about Hojlund. They think it's a knock, maybe he misses 1 or 2 games, but there is concerns around Lenny Yoro and his potential injury because if he is out for a while as well, that could even lower our negotiation position. We're in a somewhat strong position to, I think, negotiate for Matthijs de Ligt because Bayern really want to sell De Ligt so they can go and buy Tar. So Man United have always been in the strong negotiation position because De Ligt is rejecting Champions League clubs to hold out for his Manchester United move, his dream move to United. De Ligt is rejecting a lot of clubs. He's holding out for this dream Manchester United move, which is great. But then when you look at it, when you deep it, you're like, well, actually, if Bayern now know that Yoro is injured and he's going to miss the first few Premier League games of the season, they're definitely going to need a centre-back now, and now they could maybe overspend for De Ligt. So maybe it puts us in a weaker negotiation position, but I do think this steps up in regards of Man United's pursuit of De Ligt. I do think that's going to step up as well. The pitch they played on was a joke. Yeah, I mean, one report said it actually was grass. I don't know what it was. But we need to, for pre-season, we need to stop going somewhere that's going to sell the most tickets and make the most money. And we need to start thinking, is this where we should be training our players in pre-season? Is this a place, where the ground is well looked after and we can lower the risk of injuries and we can lower the risk of this and we can lower the risk of that? I think for me, it's really important that Manchester United start looking at that and start considering that because, less than half an hour in, 2 key players are injured. Like, not that I'd wish injury on anyone, but it also happens to 2 players that are going to be so key and regular starters. It's not even happening to bench players. Like, not that I want it to happen to any player, but it just seems to be happening to the players that we want to start and to the players that we want to be heavily involved. And I think that's the most frustrating thing as well. Alice, do you think United will go for Dani Olmo? No. I don't think there's any chance of Manchester United getting Dani Olmo, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think that's off. Who do you think our next signing will be? I think it will be Mazraoui because I think Wan-Bissaka will agree to this new West Ham deal because apparently they're going to offer him a higher wage. I think Mazraoui will be the next signing. I then think it will be Ugarte and then I think it will be De Ligt. I'm quite confident we get those 3 players. And then I think we make a late move for someone like Reguilon at the end of the transfer window to come in at left back if I was going to predict. Would you be happy if Wan-Bissaka stayed? Look, if we missed out on Mazraoui and Wan-Bissaka stayed, I'm not going to be annoyed about it. I like Wan-Bissaka, he's a good player. It's just that he's got 1 year left on his deal, and because we spent spend 50 million on Wan-Bissaka, it'd be nice to at least get a little bit of money back for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, if that makes sense. What is the latest on Yoro's injury? Well, there's concerns it's serious. There's a rumour that it'll be out for 3 months, but again, that's not come out from a reliable source. I mean, right now, Hojlund was a little knock. Lenny Yoro's could be more serious, but look, best case scenario is he's more than able to play in the the Community Shield coming up. That would be the best sort of case scenario. Look, if he misses a couple of weeks, it's not the end of the world, but you just don't want him missing months. But hopefully he's good. Hopefully it's just a precaution. But apparently he missed the training session just before that preseason game because he wasn't feeling 100%, which makes me say, oh, should we have played him in the first place if he had to miss training because he wasn't feeling great? You know, have we made that injury worse? Have we mismanaged that? And I think that's one thing that Ten Hag will need to improve on. Obviously, Ten Hag's just been really unlucky with injuries, but I also think Ten Hag needs to improve his management of injuries. Now, it's not necessarily his job, and I think the sports science department could do better, and I think players that are injured will say they're not injured because they want to play. But I think if we're having players that aren't training and are massive doubts because of slight injuries, I think we should say, you know what, let's not take the risk, particularly right at the start of the season. Well, I think you need a good start with momentum. I think we should just say let's not take the risk because I think obviously we haven't got good squad depth and we're not in the best position to say let's not take the risk, but I think we need that going forward. So I want to dive into a few other news stories going about, guys, because there is a few interesting news stories going about Chiesa, about, you know, Fofana, about Branthwaite, about, you know, other people looking at. The officials was crap. Oh, the referee. Let's just talk about the game yesterday. The referee was awful. It doesn't take a genius to figure out the referee was awful. The goal was offside. Every time we touched an Arsenal player, it was a foul. The referee was an Arsenal player as well. Ridiculous. Top European clubs forced to play on such pitches, I agree. The pitch was a joke. The ref was a joke, I have to say. Could Ito getting injured put a spanner in the De Ligt deal? I did think that, but also they want to bring in Jonathan Tah, so there's even more eagerness for them to sell De Ligt to bring in Tah because De Ligt is injury prone as well. Chalobah or De Ligt, Matthijs De Ligt, any day of the week. I do like Chalobah. I think he can play right back, and I think Chalobah could actually be. Do you know what's mad? Chalobah was Chelsea's best centre back second half of last season. Chalobah came into the Chelsea team second half of last season, and he was comfortably their best centre back by a long way. And Chelsea have said forcing you out, not including you on tour. And Chelsea's centre backs in defence has been pony on tour. But I think that Chalobah is a good player. I watched him play for Chelsea, and look, if we bring him in, I'm not going to complain because we need depth there. 100%, but I would rather get De Ligt in because you know that he's won a league title in Germany, he's won a league title in obviously Italy, he's won a league title, he's played under Ten Hag before Ajax. I just think the experience and the leadership you get with De Ligt, who's only reportedly going to be 5-10 million more than Chalobah, is why I would pick De Ligt over Chalobah. But if we're in a position where actually we can get Chalobah for £25 million discount deal, when you look at, you know, Yoro being injured and the injuries that we've had at the back, then yeah, I would seriously look at Chalobah and what we could do. McTominay was poor yesterday. McTominay was poor. Like, the thing with McTominay is, I like McTominay's character. I like his attitude. I like how he gets stuck in. But we are never a better team when McTominay starts. He's better coming off the bench and making an impact. So I do hope that United do look and consider selling McTominay, and we do get another bid in from Fulham. There's an expectation that Fulham will make another bid for McTominay. The offside was clear as day. Swap Anthony for Rios, I wish. McTominay was very average. He was. Who do you think was man of the match yesterday? Honestly, it was a toss-up between Mason Mount and Harry Amos for me. I fell asleep for about 20 minutes of the second half. I do apologise. I just zoned out. I was so knackered. It was so late. But the first half, I would say, definitely Mason Mount and Harry Amos. They impressed me the most. I thought Toby Collier had a very good game. I think the first 25-30 minutes showed some promise with our ball movement. Yeah, there was a bit of ball movement where it was Harry Amos, I believe, to like Rashford to Mount to like Ahmad, and it was so good. There was a couple times, particularly I thought Rashford looked a lot better on that left-hand side because he was linking well with Harry Amos. But Harry Amos, Mount, Rashford, yeah, there was some really good patterns of play. Like the first 30 minutes was really good, and I think once Yoro came off injured, I think our momentum was a bit disrupted. I think Hojlund coming off didn't help the momentum because Hojlund for Mazraoui is basically like going down to 10 men. Mazraoui didn't do anything, and Hojlund was tormenting him. He looked lively, but the 10 minutes of Hojlund, Rashford, Ahmad, I really liked. And when everyone was on the pitch, the first half an hour, we played good football. We played really proper transitional football where we're moving the ball quickly. And it was a transitional approach, which is what Ten Hag's been trying to do. But it was better than anything I saw in the Premier League last season. We were doing it properly. And I think the technical ceiling that players like Harry Amos brought and the out of possession work that Mason Mount did, who basically two players we didn't have last season, that mirror what Ten Hag wants and demands from his fullbacks and for his midfielders, made such a difference. I think if Ten Hag has the right profile of players that he wants in his system, you'll see such a difference. And how well we're playing. I really do, because and that's the frustrating thing, because now we might kick off the season with Yoro and Hojlund injured. If you bring Erik ten Hag the players he wants and the profiles he wants, I generally think we could play some absolutely fantastic football and transitional football. I do believe it as well. Chala can play right back, centre back, and DM. True. I do think if we bring Mazraoui in, then there's even less need for Chala. But my eye really hurts. That's why I'm sort of closing it. By the way, it's gone all blurry, but I do think there may be less need for him. Olmo, I don't think it's going to happen at all. I think his release clause no longer there. Just can't see it happening. Harry Amos really impressed me. Harry Amos' technical security on the ball was excellent. Harry Amos' control, his technical security on the ball for a 17-year-old kid was unbelievable. He was getting the ball on the half turn and literally spinning away from them. I was like, wait, what am I watching? What am I witnessing? This guy is literally just turned 17. He's getting the ball in the half turns. He's taking this amazing touch. He's spinning away from his players. What Harry Amos did was unbelievable. Harry Amos was class, was put under pressure many times and delivered. He was so composed. He was like, the way he got through around 3-4 Arsenal players, just like literally went through them, turned out of the press, got past 3-4 Arsenal players, was doing these quick 1-2s, making things happen. One thing about Harry Amos is it meant that Rashford had support, so Rashford wasn't isolated and he had a better game. And then I think Harry Amos in possession and what Mount offered out of possession really took us up levels as well. Is Mazraoui good? Yes. Mazraoui is a good player. Mazraoui was fantastic under ten Hag, could play left back and play right back. He's a very attacking minded fullback, and I think he would be a great signing for United. The only worry and the only fear with Mazraoui is his injury record. He doesn't seem to stay fit a lot. He does seem to have a bit of a concerning injury record, but I do think that Mazraoui is a class player. I do think that he's a good player as well. Might be the new assistance was really quick, crisp ball movement for those first 30 minutes. Yeah, it was so different. We played so much better. You're absolutely right. It did have Ruud van Nistelrooy ball written all over it as well. So maybe there's some impact there. There is Sancho to Barca links. There's a report that he's agreed personal terms to join Barcelona, but I don't know how true that is. Guys, please do go ahead and hit that like button. And of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new and want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more. I go live every single morning around 8:30. And then I normally do a live stream in the evening around the 4:30 mark. Today's a little bit later as it's a weekend. I've been out and about. At weekends, I normally do live streams around 11 a.m. and another one around 5 p.m. On weekdays, it's normally around 8:45 and another one around 4 p.m. with bonus videos every evening to round up all the news at the end of the day in 10 minutes if you're unable to tune into live stream. So do subscribe for that if you're new. It would be really appreciated. I would really appreciate it. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, but I'm going to get back into the news. I'm going to get back into the stories. There is links to Dani Olmo, but I don't believe they're true. I don't believe we're going to get Dani Olmo as well. I think Sancho could go. I mean, apparently he's agreed personal terms with PSG, but I would say take that story with a pinch of salt. I don't think it's true. I think Harry Amos and Toby Collier could definitely both have big, key and important roles for Manchester United next season. I do think they're going to be important players. I think particularly Toby Collier because he's a bit more physically developed than Harry Amos. Harry Amos may need a year, but I think the talent's there and it's very obvious they're the two young players that ten Hag really rates and is willing to potentially give some minutes for. But I want to get into some more news and some more stories because we've been live for half an hour and there's a couple stories I want to dive into. So it's coming out that Man United and Bayern both inquired about Chiesa, but nothing beyond that. He's open to play for both clubs. His agent held talks with Chelsea and Spurs as well. Juventus want about 25 million euros, which is about 20 million pounds, and are willing to negotiate because he has 1 year left on his contract. Chiesa for 20 million pounds for squad depth isn't a bad signing, but there's a reason that they're willing to take 20 million for him. There's a reason they want to sell him. I don't think he's the best player. I think he's a little bit overrated. I think Elise's better. I think that Pedro Neto's better, but he's injury prone. I think that's the one question is he's a decent player, but I don't think he's someone I look at and I think, yeah, that's what we need on the wing. I want us to be signing wingers that are actually almost going to force Garnacho, Amman and Rashford on the bench rather than signing wingers that we know are going to be on the bench behind Garnacho, Amman and Rashford, because if we want to progress as a club, every time we sign a player, unless we need the odd player here and there for depth, but I think when we sign a player, we should be signing it thinking they could put one of our first team players on the bench, and I don't think Chiesa does that. That's just sort of my feeling on it. Now, players I wouldn't mind United signing are Fofana and Branthwaite, and we did get some updates on them. It was said that Manchester United and Everton are currently not in discussions for Branthwaite, despite defender Jake O'Brien undergoing a medical at Goodison Park on Monday. But Romana did say we're still in discussions for Ligt. Romana said despite Jake O'Brien's medical, we're not in discussions with Everton for Branthwaite. But Romana has said that Man United and Bayern Munich still remain in discussions for Ligt. So that could suggest that United are full focus on Ligt. They're just waiting for Lindelof to be sold so they can get Ligt in. Tantalix, that's a good, reliable French source, said that West Ham have made a 35 million euro offer for Fofana linked to United, and Milan's offer at 17 million euros was rejected. Apparently, West Ham are willing to pay the 35 million euros that Monaco want for Fofana, but it's yet to be seen if Fofana will agree to join West Ham. Obviously, we know from Mazraoui that Manchester United have thought about hijacking the deal and could hijack the deal. So be interesting to see if Manchester United make any movement in regards to bringing Fofana in. Are they actually interested in bringing him in? Are they all out on Ugarte, or are they just waiting for the Fofana price to be lowered and actually are maybe secretly quite into bringing in Fofana as well? Be interesting. Amas is looking class, but Anthony's looking so poor again. He's so predictable, and Collier has brilliant mobility, much more than Casemiro. He's looking way off the pace. Yeah, I thought Mejbri wasn't great. I thought Maguire wasn't great. I thought Casemiro wasn't great, and I thought Anthony wasn't great yesterday. Anthony was so predictable. Every time he cut in his left foot and he shot, and every time he shot, it's nothing happened. It was always cutting in his foot and shoot, and that was so frustrating. I think Anthony was. But you're right about Collier. I mean, honestly, he looks so good. He looks so mature. Alex says Collier looked good as well. Ashworth surely well familiar with him from Brighton. Exactly, one of Brighton's best talents as well. It's very obvious that Collier is highly rated by Ten Hag. He was playing in the first team. Do you know what's interesting is Collier, Casemiro and Mount was the midfield three, and I think that's a massive thing. And hear me out here, but he could have played McTominay, he could have played Eriksen, because in fact Ten Hag was always playing Eriksen and Casemiro together in the pivot with, you know, Bruno and Mount ahead. Look at last season. Eriksen and McTominay got a fair few minutes. We had Eriksen and McTominay fit, and he chose to play Collier over Eriksen and McTominay. That says to me, because Eriksen and McTominay are not in next season's plans and Collier is. Casemiro is expected to stay, which is probably why he played. But because McTominay and Eriksen are both linked with moves away from United, maybe that's why Collier played. And look at this. Remember Maino? Remember the Real Madrid game where Maino picked up that injury? Maino was playing with the first team. And we could have played another player, but we played Maino, Mount, Bruno. We played Maino, and then we played Maino, I think, Casemiro in another game with Bruno, and then Mount played out wide. But we were playing Maino in those big preseason games when we had key players back. For me, the fact that Collier started when we could have just played McTominay and Mount like we would have done, a couple months ago, it says to me that's how high Ten Hag rates Collier. That says to me, one, that McTominay and Eriksen will probably be sold because Ten Hag was always playing them with Casemiro over the likes of Mount last season, and Collier wasn't even getting in last season. But Mount and Collier were the two midfielders picked. Mount and Collier, not Eriksen, not McTominay. And that says to me they're going to have a big role next season. They're going to be involved. And that says to me that Ten Hag clearly rates them. And that is a strong suggestion over the sale of Eriksen, over the sale of McTominay. If you'd want my honest opinion as well. Let's hope Xerxes steps up. I think Xerxes could be a really, really good signing. Do you think Anthony will go? Absolutely not. It will be difficult to sell him. Scott's just never been good enough on or off the ball. If he wasn't an academy lad, he would have been long gone. I agree. Look, what Scott McTominay brings is he's a great guy. He's really worked hard. You cannot fault his mentality, his work rate. And he's a good option to have off the bench, scoring those winning goals. And he's a good squad option to have around. But he's not good enough to start, and when he does start, we're a worse side. And when he's got 1 year left on his deal, and this is our last opportunity to really sell McTominay and get money for him because he's got 1 year left on his deal, this is when we need to sell him. This is when we need to get funds for him, because at the end of the day, he just comes off the bench. He doesn't improve our starting 11, and if we can sell him and get 30 million for him, we could afford Yusuf Fofana, and that covers almost most of the Ugarte fee, and bringing them in who would improve our starting 11 because they're the profile of player that we kind of need better than McTominay as well. So I agree. Is actually going to be given number 7? No. Mason Mount is keeping number 7. Not sure where you've heard that as well. We need to kick these players out the door. They've not delivered. They're not good enough. Do you know what? It's easier said than done. I think Ineos really want to get the likes of Anthony out and the likes of Maguire out, but they know they can't sell Anthony. They know they can't sell Maguire because both those players have no interest in leaving United because they're on a big contract. So we can pay them off their contract and pay them the money, but that makes no financial sense. You might as well keep them around for numbers in case there's injuries. But I do think that Ineos want Anthony out. I do think they want Casemiro out. I do think they want Maguire out. I do think they want Lindelof out and Wan-Bissaka out because obviously I know who they want to buy. They want to buy 2 midfielders. They want to buy another centre-back. They want to buy another full-back. They potentially want to buy another attacker. But because of the crazy wages that the people before Ineos gave out to those players, they're too comfortable at United that Maguire and Anthony know if they leave United, they're not even getting like half their wages anywhere else. So we might as well stay at United and be happy on the bench. That is the big problem we've got. Selling massively overpaid players who are reluctant to leave is challenging. Yeah. 80 million Maguire, 85 million Anthony, both on high wages, both reluctant to leave. It's very difficult to sell. Lindelof's exit, I think it's a strong possibility. I think Lindelof could be sold. We spoke about that in my video earlier today. I think Lindelof's exit and I think Wan-Bissaka's exit is a strong possibility. I think the fact that Eriksson wants to leave makes it a strong possibility. And I think the fact that a lot of clubs are willing to pay what it takes for McTominay is a strong possibility. He could go, also taking into account the fact that McTominay himself is on lower wages. But it is the Antonys, it's the Casemiros, and it's the Maguires. The players on massive wages are difficult to sell. Even the Sanchos, but at least because of Sancho's loan spell at Dortmund, he has some bigger clubs showing some interest in him. But it is the big players. They are going to be difficult to sell. They are going to be difficult to move on. And that's, unfortunately, the problem that Manchester United are going to have. But look, I'm just going to hope that Yoro's injury is okay and not as serious as being made out online. Let's hope that, Rasmus Hojlund is back soon. And let's hope that we get De Ligt and we get Ugarte and we can get Mazraoui in and potentially one or two more signings and we can achieve better depth. But I do have to say I was really Toby Collier. He did not look the slightest bit out of place as well. Lindelof, guys, we might be closer to De Ligt than we think. Breaking story here. And this has come from a really good source. This has come from Paul. Paul is reliable. It's being said just now, breaking, Victor Lindelof is close to leaving United. Victor Lindelof was not included in the matchday squad, and now there's reports coming out that he's close to leaving Manchester United. That's come from a reliable source. He wasn't included in the matchday squad. There was rumours that United are trying to sell Lindelof. The fact that we're back in talks with De Ligt, the fact that Yoro's injured, and to get a new centre-back in, we need to get Lindelof out, who we didn't include in the matchday squad. There is rumours and reports that Lindelof could be leaving. So that's an interesting story there, coming from a good source of information that Victor Lindelof is close to leaving Manchester United. So for me, we've obviously got the agreement with Mazraoui there and Bayern Munich there. We've obviously got the agreement with De Ligt. De Ligt is waiting for us to sell. If Lindelof is sold, maybe expect a double deal for both Mazraoui and De Ligt. And Mazraoui, Xerxes and De Ligt could all, meet up again at Manchester United. They all played at Bayern Munich together, Mazraoui, De Ligt and Xerxes, and maybe they're going to get a big reunion there. But this story is just broken now about, obviously, what's going on at Manchester United, and that is that Lindelof's sale could be very close. Now, obviously, this isn't for Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein, but Phil is a good source of information, so definitely one to keep an eye on as well. I think it will be a small fee for Victor. Yeah, I think it's going to be like 10 million quid or 10 million euros or something. I don't expect. I would like 15 million for Lindelof, but I think, I'll be honest, I'd be surprised if we got it. I think it will probably be 10 million. But yeah. Do you think we'll get Branthwaite? I think, considering that we're still in talks with De Ligt and we're not in talks with Branthwaite, and we're still in talks with Bayern, but we're not in talks with Everton, suggested it's more likely to be Manchester United going for the likes of De Ligt over Branthwaite. If you want my honest opinion, I think it's probably going to be a deal for De Ligt. But listen, people, I'll probably be back tonight with a 10-minute roundup video if anything develops, about 9:30, 10 o'clock tonight. So make sure you are subscribed for that. Please do hit the like button, share the video. Thank you for watching. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We're on 86,888 subscribers. So we're only 12 subscribers away from 86.9k. Only 12 subscribers away. So if you've not subscribed, please just go ahead and subscribe. Really helps out the channel. Smash the like on the way out. Thank you for watching, and bye.